This is a small video to introduce you to charcoal. There's compressed charcoal and vine charcoal. The difference is going to be how dark it comes out. The compressed is going to look darker. You can try both. This is compressed charcoal, and I have a small box. They usually come in sticks or rounded sticks. And the first thing you might notice is that you can break it pretty quickly, pretty easily into smaller bits, which is good and sometimes frustrating. And also that it gets everywhere really quickly, including on your fingers and on the paper. And the marks you make on the paper with it that you don't intend to make, well, they're a little hard to get rid of. So just be careful. You have to be pretty controlled when you're using it. When you break the charcoal, it does give you a nice sort of sharp edge sometimes. That can be to your advantage if you're trying to sketch out a form. But the nice thing about charcoal too is that you can, and probably one of the biggest benefits I would say, is that if you're trying to fill up a large page with a lot of texture and variety and loose marks, you can do it really quickly with charcoal. It's going to have a looser look than filling it up with a graphite drawing. But you can really make some dynamic, textural, gestural expressions across a big page using charcoal. So I'm sketching in my little flower vase and using the technique of kind of drawing rings to get the basic cylindrical or spherical form. Just filling it in with the edge, the kind of sharpened, broken edge of the charcoal. That's going to be the sharpest point, versus using the side and sliding the side of the charcoal across the page. That would be good for filling in large areas of texture. In some ways, charcoal, is just like a pencil, but in other ways it's not. As you can see, you can smudge it pretty quickly just by using your finger across the top. That wouldn't work with pencil unless you were using like a very dark black pencil. I didn't really like my drawing because I didn't represent the top of the vase accurately. I didn't represent the little spout part. So I'm just going to try drawing it again. These are just sketch exercises. I'm not trying to make a finished drawing right now. It's part of the drawing process to try things out, figure out the hard parts, solve the problems ahead of time. And this kind of form, I'm still using the ring approach to get the cylindrical or spherical form. And it's a little more accurate to have that little top bit. Another thing you'll notice about charcoal that's different than pencil is it's a lot darker. That compressed quality has just a lot more material deep into it. So you just see more of that. You see more of the material coming out. It's going to make a darker, more dramatic effect. But you can use it, I'm just shading across the page as I would with a pencil. Kind of holding it between my thumb and front two fingers for the most part. That would be the traditional way to hold it. But who says you have to be traditional, right? Just filling in the lines, filling in the shadows. I choose to kind of do the darker parts first and leave some whiteness. I think that'll help us later when we try to pull out some highlights. Again, this is just a quick sketch to give you a little sense of how to start playing around with this material if you so choose. Trying to get my shape a little bit better. My fingers are definitely covered in charcoal, no joke. It's gonna get on stuff, and it's not the easiest to get out of fabric, especially. It'll come off a table, no problem. Wipe it off a counter. I don't know about like a marble counter or something. That might be not a good idea. But it is gonna get all over your hands and your clothing, so be careful. So the smudging sticks, especially the bigger kind, are really good for charcoal. As you can see, I'm just moving the smudging stick right over where I drew, and it's going to smooth out those little gaps of white that were peeking through to get a really rich, beautiful black surface that looks a lot like the thing I am trying to draw. I'm kind of just repeating what I did with the charcoal. I'm drawing over it, but with my smudging stick. I'm showing you here that you can use the little paper smudging sticks too, kind of like wrapped paper ones. They don't work like as well in my mind for like filling in large areas because they're a little tighter, but they're really good for the edges and making sure things look kind of sharp. And as I showed you before, you can also use your fingers to smudge things with charcoal, but it might make you, a little frustrated because it is pretty messy and it's easy to get fingerprints everywhere. I'm still kind of adjusting things. Drawing is a process that you have to really keep making adjustments and decisions the whole time until at some point you're like, okay, I'm done. But don't rush to get to that point. You should slow down and ease into this process. Otherwise, I don't think you're going to see the success or the results that you really want. What I'm doing is just trying to even out the surface so it looks smooth and represents the material I'm trying to draw, which is like pottery. And I'm trying to tweak the form because there's things I'm not loving about the shape or the form itself, but I'm going to keep it pretty quick. I could keep adjusting this for a long time to get the shape of my vase a little bit more accurate. It's a little crooked right now, but it's okay. Let's go ahead and sketch in our horizon line, and you'll see that all of a sudden that gives us a imagined sense of space, that this form is actually sitting on something, and the same device is adding in the shadow. That's going to really help us understand that this is plopped on a table. And I just sketched in sort of that spherical oval shape along like the edge, the bottom edge of the vase. I use my fingers to make the edges sort of soft because usually shadows are a little more diffused. And I'm going to make the horizon also a little bit softer. And go over it with the smudging stick. It's getting there. We have a little bit more of a sense of space. Notice how my smudging stick got really dirty. So actually I'm using that to my advantage, and I'm sort of turning it into like a mark making stick, almost like a pencil. So you could try that too. Sometimes it's frustrating. You don't want your smudging stick to be dirty, but that's what happens. Charcoal you can erase into, okay? It's gonna be something you're gonna want to try. See what the different eraser types, what marks they achieve when you erase. But it's really important to go in and pull out highlights when you're using charcoal, because as we've said, the charcoal is so dark and black has that really dark value. So the contrast with the really bright white highlights is going to be exceptionally beautiful and give us a sense of real form. The top edge, I really wanted to pull out a highlight to show that rounded little top part. It's not easy because charcoal is messy, and this is a very tiny drawing. Only smaller than my hand. So I've erased out some white on the very top edge, and I'm going back in with a very tiny edge of the charcoal to sharpen up the top part of that vase. So there's my little vase. It looks all right. A little slanted, but it's okay. And I want to show you guys that charcoal is really great too. It's great for shading and filling up big pages with lots of textures, but it's great for things like that have a little bit more irregular form, because you can draw in the texture super duper fast in a way that you can't really do with pencil as quickly. I get like a nice little variety of mark there just by twisting the way my charcoal hits the page. I kind of used like the sharp point part, and then I also twisted it to like lean it on its edge a little bit. You see how quickly I'm like capturing these textures of these kind of dried flowers I have sitting on my table. It'd be harder to capture that organic, loose quality with a pencil, I think I'd be too concerned about drawing things super precise. So, and then I can like use the smudginess in a way to my advantage. Imagine a whole page filled up with that. It'd be kind of nice. And yeah, just don't forget how messy it is. You can keep a rag nearby to tidy up your area. Okay, that's all I got. Thanks so much. Bye.